Now let's see how to make line graphs in Excel. A line graph is an excellent choice for plotting time series data. First, we'll make a graph of the unemployment rate for the United States. We'll see how to save the graph as an image file. Then we'll graph the unemployment rates for men and women together. To begin, notice I've already selected a cell in the data range. To insert a line graph, I come up to the Insert tab, look over for the different chart options, and I'll open the menu for line graphs. There's a bunch of options and you should explore them, but we're going to pick the most basic two-dimensional line graph in the top left. Select that. The chart is inserted. I can move the chart by clicking and dragging so that it doesn't obscure the data. Excel has inferred what I want to plot based on the data. It has used the leftmost column as the x-axis labels, and it has plotted the remaining columns against that. Since we only want to plot the unemployment rate, we need to delete the series that we don't want from the graph. To do that, right-click somewhere in the chart area, select data, and we look at the legend entries and we just select the series that we want to remove by clicking the minus sign button. Click OK. The graph has been updated. So this graph looks pretty good. There's some ways we can customize it, and I will show you those methods in a minute. But let me show you a different way to insert line graphs. The method we just looked at entailed letting Excel infer the data to add to the chart, and then we deleted the data that we didn't want. A different method would be to create a blank chart and then add the series as you go. So let's do this. We'll click somewhere in the graph, press delete, and the graph is gone. So now I've selected a cell that is outside of the data range. I'll click insert the 2D line graph, and now I've got a blank chart area, and I need to add data to this. So I will right click in the chart area, come down to select data, and I need to add data by coming to this legend entries menu. Click the plus sign, and now I need to add the unemployment rate data. I add a name for the data. I can either call it, type out unemployment rate, but I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to come over to the spreadsheet and select the cell which has the name for the series. I need to add the Y values range. I will delete this, whatever's already there, and I'm going to come over to the spreadsheet and I'm going to select the data that I want, which is starting with cell B2, coming down, I'll hold Shift, press Command or Control and down arrow, and highlight the entire column of data. Next, I need to add the x-axis labels. So I'll click in that field, I'll come over and start selecting the dates. Again, holding Shift, Command or Control, press down, click OK. And my graph has been created. So this graph looks pretty good, but it could look better. And so let's look at some ways to improve the quality of the graph. First, I noticed that the x-axis labels are not ideal. It has a bunch of labels. It looks like they're spaced out every 2 months, which is a lot. It also has the day of the month. So January 1st, March 1st, May 1st, and that seems a little unnecessary, okay, especially for data that is spanning decades. So what I'm going to do is right click on the x-axis labels, come down to Format Axis. And now I have a bunch of options. I can change the frequency of the labels with this major, with this major category here, this is for major tick marks. I could specify once every 100 months. 100 is the maximum number of months that you can specify. If I want to do, say, every 10 years, then I need to change this option to years and say once every 10 years. And you can see that a bunch of the labels have disappeared and the orientation has now changed from vertical to horizontal. But I still want to get rid of these months and days because I don't think that's particularly helpful. So I'm going to come all the way down here to number. And now I get to change the format. Okay, and there are a bunch of sort of default options here. You can see what they look like and add the actual day of the week. That's even less helpful than what we started out with. Okay, but looking at it, it doesn't look like an option I want is in here. So what I want to do then is add my own. So I'll come all the way down here to format code and make the format code YYYY, which is the code for a 4-digit year. We'll add this. And now the formatting looks great. 1948, 1958, 1968. Okay, it's much more readable. Okay, next I want to add a label for the y-axis. Okay. To do that, I'm going to come up to the chart design tab, look over to the add chart element menu, and I want to add a title to the vertical axis. I can click in there and give this a nice title. Call this percent, because those are the units for the unemployment rate. Okay. All right, so this graph is looking a lot better. I could, if this seems like it would be helpful, I can even change the properties of the line that's plotted. Okay, right click and come to format data series. And there's a bunch of options that you can specify. Maybe it would be nice to have a little bit thicker line so it shows up more intensely. So I can increase the width to say 3 points instead of the default. All right, so a nice thicker line looks a little bit better. Okay. So here's how to make a nice readable plot of the unemployment rate that you can then save as an image file and include in a document or upload as part of a homework assignment. Okay, so how to save this as an image file? Right click in the graph somewhere. Come down to the option to save as picture. And then you can choose the format, the file format. The default is PNG, Portable Network Graphics. You can change the title, obviously, to something meaningful. And you can save this as a JPEG, as a PDF, or several other options. Save this as a PNG. Okay. And the file has been saved. Okay. The next graph that I want to make is a graph of the unemployment rates for men and women together. So let's go ahead and do that. Come back to Insert. And we'll construct the graph from scratch. Right click, we're going to select data. We're going to add the two data series, the unemployment rate for men and the unemployment rate for women. So series 1, unemployment rate for men is the name, the Y values. Okay, and I need to add another series, the unemployment rate for women, the name, element D1, and I need to come over and select the data. Okay, and I need to add the x-axis labels. Click OK. And the graph has been made. Okay. So here, because I have two series, Excel has not used the names of the series as the title. Okay, so I need to add a title, or I need to manually adjust the title. Okay, I'll give the graph a name. Again, I'm going to change the x-axis labels so that they're more readable. I'm going to put a label every 10 years. Change the format of the labels to YYYY formatted. Okay, the axis looks great. Okay, we'll come back to chart design. We're going to add a y-axis label. This is %. And we should add a legend. And we have some options for where to place the legend: left, right, top, bottom. Doesn't really matter, but I'll go ahead and put the legend at the bottom. All right, so there we go. Now we know which line corresponds to which. Now, this graph is great if you're going to share it with people who are viewing it in color. But a lot of times it's useful to make graphs that are readable in black and white. Okay, so if they're rendered, say, in grayscale. So how can we do that? Let's go ahead and right click on, you see we can click on the different data series and highlight them. Let's go ahead and click on the data series for women. Let's right click on it and come down to Format Data Series. And let's look at the options. We can make the graph, or we can make the data series. We can change the formatting of the line and make it either as it is, which is a straight line. We can make it dotted or different kinds of dashes. Okay, so let's pick the dot. Okay, and now it's a dotted line. Okay. And you can see that the legend entry has also changed. So now it makes it a little bit more clear which series is which. It could also be helpful in a situation like this to change the thickness of one of the lines, okay, so that you're not just looking at the line style, but you can also use the line thickness to infer which series is which. So let me click on the line for men, right click, Format Data Series, and we'll increase the thickness to, say, 3 points. Okay. So now I've got a thick, solid line for one data series and a thinner dotted line for the other data series. Okay, this makes it a little bit more clear and easy to read if for some reason the graph is printed in grayscale or black and white. Okay, so again, this graph could be saved by right-clicking in the chart area, coming down to save as picture. Okay, and you can give it a relevant name. Okay, and so that's how to make line graphs in Excel, how to customize the line graphs so they look a little bit better than they do under the default formatting. I encourage you to play around with the different kinds of formatting, make graphs look the way you want them to look. Try to make them look high quality, try to make them readable, but also try to make them look your own. Okay.